Bill, you've done a lot of things throughout your career that I certainly have not accomplished. You checked another one off the list just a few weekends ago. You jumped through a table outside of Highmark Stadium. We like to ask the tough questions here at Channel 2, so I'll start off with this. What the hell were you thinking, and how did you come out from your first table experience?
Well, let me correct you there. As a good news reporter, you did not do your background. I did this actually 4 years ago in the studio. And then at CBS, I broke a table there. So this was my second table I broken from Bill's Mafia. And we got caught up in the atmosphere, so to speak, that we were out into the parking lot. And I am feeling fine. I had to follow Nate Burleson, and that was not an easy task. I think he did about a 36 vertical jump. I did about a 6 vertical jump. But the end result was we broke some tables, as all of us did on our set. We had a magnificent time being up there, and obviously culminated with the big win against Kansas City.
Yeah, I was really worried about you, Bill. As you know, I texted you at halftime after I saw the video, and I said, look, we're about the same age, and I couldn't think of doing that. I know you played the game. You're a much tougher man than me, but that's cool. You're out. You came through it okay. Bill, big picture now. How do you see the Bills stacking up with this competition in the AFC?
Well, I mean, listen. I think we're going to find out a lot tonight about the Baltimore Ravens, and we'll also find a lot tonight about the LA Chargers. I think both those teams are legitimate. The way they play the game, kind of a little bit differently. I think it's a more wide open offense in Baltimore. The Chargers are kind of got under the radar here, in my opinion. I think none people are taking them serious. So, a little bit of a litmus test, I think, for them tonight. But I think when you look at everybody else, I think you're still going to put the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Pittsburgh Steelers right there near the top. And again, that was a big win for Buffalo. I think it's a little bit of a different team than they've been in years past. I remember the last couple of years, I feel like they've limped into the playoffs. It feels almost like a reverse here. You're going to start getting some players back here after this bye week. And I think in the meantime, you've got some very, very good play from some people, from some of the reserves who now have experience. And the depth is much better than it's been in years past.
Bill, you say the team kind of has a different feel than years past. I would say Josh Allen has a different feel, even though he's been so good throughout his entire career. From your vantage point, what is different about Josh Allen in 2024?
He's playing with more freedom. I feel like in the past, he was always trying to distribute the ball to keep people happy, making sure everyone got their touches. And I think he's kind of taken ownership over this team. And I think as I look at him, he's playing with more freedom. He's playing more relaxed. He's reading defenses and doing what the defenses give him, taking over games in the fourth quarter when he has to, protecting the football, making good decisions. I think that's the biggest thing I've seen for him. And not to press and lean on your defense if you have to. It's okay to punt every now and then, as I've always said to him in the past. And I just think, again, you look at the ownership, the leadership that he's displaying on a week out basis, to me, speaks volumes in his numbers, and I think he's having an MVP type of season.
As you know, Bill, the overarching story with this Bills team has been, okay, good enough to get there. A lot of hope that they could go deep, make a deep run. So if it's going to be different this year, what are you seeing for them to get over the hump? What's the sustainable piece besides Josh, as you mentioned, and besides the depth that they've shown? Is there something else that stands out that tells you, hey, maybe this is the year they can get over the hump?
I think maturity. I think when I look at this team, just talking to Sean and listening to Josh, and look at Terrell, Bernard. I mean, just looking at the veteran leadership that you have on this team, and the influx you have of, Keon Coleman and bringing him in, and getting Dalton Kincaid back and Shakir and new role and what he's kind of fallen into. So I just think it's a team, to me. Listen, that's what they said about the Pittsburgh Steelers when I was coaching there. We got to the playoffs, couldn't win the big one, can't get to the Super Bowl. And you just got to keep knocking on the door. And I think eventually what happens is, you expect to be there, you expect to win games, and then you become have more of a resolve once you get into the playoffs. But you have to get there first. Ideally, you can get there and get that number one seed, and only have to play 2 games to get there instead of playing 3. But whatever the path may be. And I think the biggest thing to me is the leadership and maturity. Sean McDermott, I think, is one of the best coaches in the National Football League. Look what he's done year in, year out. The experience he has, doesn't get too high at the highs, doesn't get too low at the lows, very even keel, but yet it pushes all the right buttons. And like I said, I think with this football team, to me, if they can continue on this path, I just feel like it's a great mix of youth and experience, and I think that's going to blend very well into the playoffs.
Bill, you mentioned you were in a somewhat similar situation as maybe the Bills and Sean McDermott when you were in Pittsburgh. From the head coaching position, how do you navigate that and not lose your way? And have you seen Sean McDermott evolve and maybe learn from some of these battle scars over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all grow. I think I was a better coach in my 10th year than I was in my 5th year, and I think we always grow because of the experiences you go through. You know, the biggest thing to me is being able to manage your emotions. You know, that to me is the biggest thing in big games, because we all get so hyped up for these games. We talk about the matchups, we talk about the repercussions and the consequences of each one of these games. And I think the ability to manage your emotions, not just through a game, but even through a season. And I think that's the thing I see with Sean, is he understands that it is a journey, it's not a sprint, and you want to be able to manage that to the point where as you start to go into the playoffs, you start to magnify the importance of these games, that, you know, you keep it in a proper perspective where players are playing loose or playing with confidence, playing free, as I talked about before, not just with Josh, but with the rest of the team, because there's a degree of trust that you have, and you build that bond together, that you respond and you pick the other person up and you play complementary football. We talk about it all the time. And what is that? Well, you know, if you turn the football over, go in there and stop them. And they just get a drive, respond with a drive of your own. So that, to me, is what it is. It's about responding and being complementary to the units that you have. There's a brotherhood that you have. And that, to me, is what you see is that this team getting closer and closer and getting a little more confident with each win.
A man speaking from experience. Thanks, Bill Cowher, for joining us here on Sports Talk Live.
Thanks, guys.